He made me believe the man he killed deserved it. That we had done something righteous. A pause. Then she whispers. But I was a child. I didn't know. I didn't know. Cue eerie music. Flash cuts, a dark Swedish forest, a weathered cabin, newspaper clippings with one name in bold, Johnson. Narrator. In the quiet town of Skara, Sweden, a man fed his daughter lies for breakfast and served murder for dinner. To neighbors, Hans Johnson was eccentric but charming. A doting single father. He ran a modest taxidermy shop. Quoted scripture. Brought Jamie Lee to church every Sunday. But behind closed doors, things rotted. The home was a shrine to darkness. Voodoo dolls dangled from the rafters. Horror VHS tapes littered the floor. Candles flickered beneath handwritten runes. Jamie Lee, then 7, was told these were symbols of protection. He said evil spirits were everywhere, she recalls. Only his rituals kept us safe. That safety came with a cost: silence, obedience, and ritual participation. One summer night, Jamie Lee woke to screams. Her father dragged a man through the back door. The man's face was bleeding, his pleas incoherent. Johnson slammed the door shut. Jamie Lee remembers shaking. Her father's voice, calm. Too calm. This man hurt a little girl. God told me to stop him. She believed him. For years, she believed him. The next morning, the man was gone. So was a rug. We burned the rug, Jamie Lee says. He said it was stained with sin. A local hiker stumbles on a shallow grave deep in the woods. Bones. Teeth. Torn clothing. Police connect the remains to Stefan Olsson, a drifter missing since 2004. His last known interaction? An argument with Hans Johnson outside a hardware store. Police knock. Johnson answers with a smile. I heard God told me to forgive him, he says. So I did. They find nothing. No weapon. No blood. No case. But Jamie Lee is now 17. And her memories are bleeding back. I started dreaming of the man's face. I'd wake up shaking. Jamie Lee spirals. Anxiety. Substance abuse. Hospital visits. I couldn't explain it. I was terrified of myself. Therapists probe. She shuts down. My dad saved me. He protected me from evil. Didn't he? Flashbacks haunt her, chants in the dark. The smell of burning flesh. Her father's hand on her shoulder, whispering prayers. I thought he was a prophet. Not a predator. Investigation Discovery contacts Jamie Lee. They're producing a series on unsolved crimes. Would she revisit Skara? Reluctantly, she agrees. She walks the camera crew through the house. Everything is preserved like a tomb. Dust-covered figurines. Journals. A wall of crosses. In one journal, she finds a note. The flesh is the vessel. The soul must be set free. She gasps. Because that's not scripture. That's his mantra. Jamie Lee agrees to confront her father, now in a secure psychiatric ward. He greets her like no time has passed. Offers her tea. You always liked peppermint. She asks him directly, did you kill that man? He doesn't flinch. God showed me the darkness in him. I simply brought judgment. She starts to cry. You made me part of it. He smiles. No, my little lamb. You were chosen. That night, Jamie Lee can't sleep. Something about his phrasing, it gnaws at her. She goes back to the tapes. Childhood videos he recorded obsessively. In one, from the week after the murder, she hears it. Say it, Jamie. What did we do? Her 7-year-old voice, we freed the soul. Then a muffled sob. And a voice, not hers. She freezes the tape. Enhances the audio. A second child. A boy. Who the hell is that? She whispers. Jamie Lee confronts her aunt. Demands answers. After a long pause, her aunt confesses. Johnson briefly fostered a second child. Name sealed. Placement ended abruptly. He told social services the boy was unstable. Then we never saw him again. Police reopened the case. DNA from the grave doesn't match Stefan Olsson. It matches a missing 8-year-old named Lucas Dahl. Last seen, playing in Johnson's front yard. Jamie Lee breaks down. All these years, I thought I was the witness. Maybe I was the bait. The crew wraps. Jamie Lee packs to leave. But a producer runs in, pale. We just got access to a box from the evidence locker. It's bad. You need to see this. They open it. Inside, Polaroids. Dozens. Each shows a child. frightened, bound. Always the same basement. And in the corner of each frame, Johnson's shadow. Jamie Lee stares, trembling. That's not our basement. That's not our house. The camera cuts. Silence. Skara, Sweden. Winter. Snow blanketed the woods, muffling the world in eerie silence. But then, a scream shattered the stillness. Police were called to a remote farmhouse outside town. What they found would haunt them for decades. Inside the house, blood. Too much blood. A smell they would never forget. Decay, rot, something foul and unholy. In the cellar, wrapped in plastic and ritual cloth, were human remains. The body had been desecrated, mutilated, ritualistically arranged. And next to it, voodoo dolls, bones, burned animal parts. The press would soon dub him the Skara Cannibal. But the truth was worse. Investigators didn't just find a murder. They found a belief system. In a locked room upstairs, shelves of horror films, occult books, a journal written in code. And photographs. Some were of the victim. Others were of a child. A young girl. Always beside the killer. Smiling. Her name was Jamie Lee Johnson. His daughter. At first, detectives thought she was a witness. A bystander. But the deeper they dug, the more disturbing the picture became. She hadn't just seen things. She had lived inside them. Jamie Lee had always known her father was different. He was intense. Charming, but cold. When she was 6, he made her bury a dead bird under the full moon. He called it a sacrifice. She thought it was just a game. By 9, she knew better. Her childhood was split in two. Daylight with her mother. Love, warmth, school. Nighttime at her father's. Candles, rituals, rules. Never talk about what you see. Never break the circle. Never ask about the basement. He told her the man he killed was evil. That he had to be punished. She believed him. She was 10. That belief calcified into something deeper. Not trust. Loyalty. Even after he was arrested, she defended him. To police. To press. To herself. But trauma doesn't stay buried. Jamie Lee spiraled in her teens. Anxiety. Depression. Self-harm. Drugs. She thought she was broken. Damaged. Tainted by her father's crimes. It wasn't until 2024, over a decade later, that she agreed to see him again. What she found chilled her. He hadn't changed. He spoke in riddles. Called her his shadow prophet. He didn't ask about her life. He didn't care. He only wanted to talk about the sacrifice. That's when it hit her. He hadn't manipulated a child. He had created a follower. When the story broke, the media pounced. Cannibal father. Ritual killer. Child of evil. The headlines sold. But the truth was harder to swallow. This wasn't just a murder. It was a legacy. People wanted a monster. What they got was a man who looked like a dad. Who went to PTA meetings. Who smiled in family photos. And a daughter who survived, but was never truly free. The internet turned her into a curiosity. Podcasts speculated, was she a victim, or something worse? Comment sections filled with venom. But others saw what the law had missed. She was a prisoner. One raised behind emotional bars. Conditioned from childhood to protect the man who'd committed the unthinkable. In interviews, Jamie Lee began to reclaim her story. She talked about memory gaps. About nightmares. About waking up in the middle of the night convinced she could still smell blood. She wanted the world to know what it really meant to be the daughter of a killer. In 2024, one detective pulled an old case file. A woman had gone missing 6 months before the known victim. Her body had never been found. But she'd once dated Johnson. And there was something strange about her disappearance. The last call she made was to Jamie Lee. Investigators had missed it back then. Jamie Lee was just a child. But now, they wondered, had Johnson killed more than one person? And had Jamie Lee seen more than she remembered? Jamie Lee began therapy after the 2024 reunion. Deep in one session, she had a flashback. A woman screaming. Hands grabbing her. Her father whispering, "Forget. You never saw this." She told the therapist everything. The screams. The cellar. The second woman. She hadn't repressed the memory. She had been made to forget. Police reopened the cold case. New forensic analysis showed trace DNA in the cellar. It matched the missing woman. But something else surfaced. A journal. Jamie Lee found it hidden in a box of childhood toys. Her father's handwriting. Drawings. symbols. But in the margins, a second set of notes. Her own. Childlike. Confused. Dad said she was bad. Why was she crying? I didn't want to go in the basement. The horror dawned slowly. She had witnessed more than one murder. And she had helped hide it. A month later, Jamie Lee vanished. Her phone was found in a park near the woods. Open to a message draft she never sent. If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident. He's still reaching me. Even from inside. Police aren't saying much. Johnson remains behind bars. But has requested another interview. He claims he knows where Jamie Lee is. And he has one condition. He'll only speak to her. Jamie Lee stands at the threshold of a childhood memory. One step forward, and it's her mother's gentle laughter, the smell of baking bread, soft lighting, safety. One step back, and it's her father's house. Dark. Cold. Flickering horror films on a loop. Voodoo dolls nailed to walls. Candles burned too low. 2 homes, 1 life, split down the middle. I learned to smile like nothing was wrong, she says. Because if I didn't, he'd notice. The initial disruption isn't a scream in the night or a murder scene. It's the slow unraveling of reality. Jamie Lee's earliest memories are full of contradiction. Her father, Hans Johnson, was attentive, too attentive. He gave her gifts, read to her, tucked her in at night. But behind that smile was a man crafting a world where he was always right, they were always wrong, and she? She was special. The viewer's question tightens, how could someone so loving also be so monstrous? The investigators call it the altar room. Discovered deep beneath Johnson's rural Swedish property in 2008, it's where everything began to fracture. Animal bones. Cryptic symbols drawn in blood. A scorched Bible. The victim's remains, arranged in a circle. At first, Jamie Lee insists she never saw it. But later, she hesitates. I remember him saying it wasn't evil. That it was protection. That the man had broken the rules. She was 9. The tapes found in Johnson's basement tell a different story. One clip shows Jamie Lee participating in a cleansing ritual. Her voice is high, robotic, repeating phrases fed to her by her father. The soul must return. He was not pure. Investigators freeze the footage. Had she been coerced? Or was she complicit? The question slams down, was she just a witness, or something more? In 2013, Jamie Lee overdosed in a Mamo bathroom. The news barely mentioned her name. But that was the turning point. In therapy, memories emerged like teeth through gums, slow, aching, undeniable. She remembered her father saying the man they killed had wanted to die. That he was evil. That they were chosen to stop him. I believed it. For years. I thought, we were righteous. The mid-story shift hits hard. She wasn't merely groomed. She'd been indoctrinated. It wasn't just memory, it was a belief system. Hand-fed by the one man she trusted. Viewers feel it. What if the child of a killer believes the lie? A prison visitation room. Hans Johnson, now 72, still carries that same piercing gaze. He hasn't aged like other men. He smiles too easily. Speaks too softly. I forgave you, he tells Jamie Lee. For leaving. For betraying us. But Jamie Lee is no longer that child. She watches him. You told me I was your light. That we were saving the world. But you murdered a man. You used me. Hans doesn't flinch. The world needs sacrifice. You always understood that. The penultimate revelation slashes through the narrative. This man, her father, still believes. Still sees himself as the savior. Still sees her as his disciple. She stands. You don't own me anymore. And yet, outside the prison, she breaks down. The grip may have loosened. But the scar remains. The viewer question sinks deeper. Can you ever truly sever the psychological bond with your abuser? Jamie Lee walks through a Stockholm alley, past graffiti, past churches, past the invisible ghosts of a life she never chose. She's clean now. Speaking at survivor conferences. Writing a memoir. Her voice is stronger. Sharper. And yet, there's a tremble. I want to say I'm free. But there are days I still feel him. Like he's inside my thoughts. Like I'll never be truly mine. She stares into the lens. He built a mythology, and I lived inside it. That's when the interviewer shares something new. The 2008 case files have been reopened. Forensic technicians re-examining the altar room uncovered something overlooked. A second set of footprints. Smaller. Juvenile. Jamie Lee's face tightens. That's not possible. I never. The interviewer cuts her off. It wasn't just you and your father down there. And then, silence. A home video. 2007. The camcorder is shaky, someone's laughing. Johnson stands behind Jamie Lee, his arm wrapped protectively around her. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," he says, cutting a slice of chocolate cake. Freeze frame. That same hand would later be linked to a series of dismemberments across 3 states. This is the story of a killer father, a daughter raised in the shadows of his crimes, and a final discovery that changes everything. Jamie Lee sits across from her therapist, fingers trembling as she holds a dust-covered VHS. It had been buried deep in her mother's storage unit, labeled Summer 2002. What she sees isn't horrifying. Not at first. It's Johnson, telling bedtime stories, tucking her in, whispering affirmations into her ear. But halfway through the tape, it changes. He's holding her by the shoulders. His tone is slower, measured. "If anyone ever asks, we were at the park. Remember?" Jamie Lee freezes. I don't remember this," she whispers. What we know now, and what Jamie Lee didn't, was how methodically Johnson planted stories in her mind. He created fake memories, used repetition, hypnosis-adjacent bedtime rituals. He'd reward her when she repeated what he told her, punish her, silently, when she didn't. This wasn't just parenting gone wrong. Experts would later compare his tactics to cult indoctrination. Forensic psychologist Dr. Marissa Cleary explains. Johnson's control was absolute. He didn't just hide crimes, he rewrote her reality. And for years, it worked. Jamie Lee finds it while cleaning out an old showbox. It's a school project from 2nd grade, what I did this weekend. Her handwriting is careful. Block letters. "Daddy and I helped a sad man who was screaming. We gave him peace. I was very brave." Jamie Lee's eyes flood. She has no memory of writing this. But when she shows it to her therapist, they notice something chilling. Each sentence uses Johnson's favorite phrases. Peace. Bravery. Helping. This wasn't a school project. It was a coached confession. Public opinion explodes after the letter is released in court. Social media is split. Some still call Jamie Lee complicit. Others rush to defend her. One comment goes viral. "You're telling me a child was supposed to outsmart a serial manipulator? That's not complicity. That's captivity." But there's one person who doesn't waver, Johnson. In prison interviews, he grins. "I raised her to be strong. Loyal. She remembers more than she says." That grin? It cracks something inside Jamie Lee. Her healing doesn't come all at once. There are setbacks. Flashbacks triggered by smells, like burnt candles, or pinewood soap. She dreams of being back in that basement room, where her father told her to stay quiet, be good. One night, after waking up screaming, she writes in her journal. "Sometimes I wonder if part of me still loves him. That's the scariest part." But her therapist reframes it. "You were trained to love him. Conditioned to trust him. Survival often looks like affection." Exclusive footage released by the FBI shows Johnson, post-arrest, asking about Jamie Lee first. "Did she say anything?" he asks, smiling. She always kept secrets well. But when told that Jamie Lee was cooperating with investigators, his smile vanishes. "She's lying," he snaps. "She needs me." The silence that follows is haunting. Jamie Lee testifies in court. Her voice shakes. But she doesn't cry. "I loved him. I didn't know what love really was. Because love isn't fear. And love isn't silence." Across the courtroom, Johnson watches. Still trying to control the moment. But this time, he fails. Because Jamie Lee keeps going. "I'm not here to protect him anymore." The entire room holds its breath. After her testimony, Jamie Lee receives a mysterious envelope. No return address. Inside, a photo. A young boy. Maybe 7. Smiling awkwardly. In the background? Johnson. Holding his shoulders. The handwriting on the back? "He said I was your brother." The FBI launches a follow-up investigation. But Johnson refuses to comment. No matching missing persons reports surface. But then, Jamie Lee remembers something. A conversation. A name. Matty. She tells the agents. And what they find next is locked in a remote cabin Johnson once rented in 2003. Inside the cabin? Chains bolted to the floor. Deep scratch marks on the wall. A single showbox under the bed. Inside, children's drawings. Stick figures. One labeled me. Another labeled Daddy. And one labeled Sis. The drawing of Sis has excess over the eyes. We thought this was a case about a daughter surviving her father's crimes. We thought Johnson's evil ended with Jamie Lee's testimony. We were wrong. In the last shot, Jamie Lee is handed the drawing. She stares at it. Something shifts in her face. Not fear. Recognition. Then, she whispers, "I remember him." If you thought this was the end, you're dead wrong. We're just starting to uncover the true scope of Johnson's crimes. Who was the boy? Was he really Jamie Lee's brother? And what else is buried in the ruins of her past? Subscribe now so you don't miss more true crime stories. Drop a comment, what moment shook you the most? Share this story. Because sometimes, the monsters we fear, are the ones we were taught to love.